Hey guys, Cameron Blagan here, coming to you with a video on how to get the included receiver inside of the Force1RC racing drone. So I know the drone, when it comes, the receiver comes in a box like this, and that is just a little too big, obviously, for what we need. I actually have it inside of here right now, so it is possible it does fit, and that's what it was made for. It is precisely the size to fit right inside of here, so there's not a lot of wiggle room, which is why we're making this video to show you guys how to get your receiver, your controller receiver, inside of here. And this will come in the controller box, and then you will have to take off this casing and place it in there. So to take off the casing, it's a very simple 4 screws, and the drone comes with its own screwdriver. I'm using my own. So you just go ahead and take these out. Now you want to be careful when you're taking off this cover because it does have some wires attached. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this off for you here, and you can see right inside of there the receiver is just kind of resting right inside. So before I take it out, take a good look kind of where that's sitting. And you will notice, obviously, it does not have the casing on it. So that is the position it should be sitting in. I will show you exactly how to get it there, but if you want to just go for it yourself, that's where it is. And I'll show you how to take the case off also. So to set this up, it's very easy, and like I said, be very careful because this camera is wired directly to your board right here. You don't want to be ripping off any wires. So I'm going to go ahead and just unplug this. Before I do, I'd just like to mention that you want to make sure that you remember which direction the wires need to point, and that is on this case. So I recommend keeping this case with you, and you'll see right here it says S bus, and then it has the signal wire, positive and ground wire, and it says that the signal wire is on the bottom, which is why it is on the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and just unplug this for now. We'll just get this out of the way. So you can see this is bare now. It's its own receiver, and it's much smaller. To take it out of its case, it's just some simple clicks. I went ahead and already did it, but you can see here this antenna sticks out this direction, and so when you stick it in the drone, this thing does pivot, and so you're going to need it to pivot right over the board, kind of like that. And I'll show that a little bit later. So to get it out of the case, and you don't want to mess around with that too much, because if you bend that around too much, it could break off. And now these pins you will not need unless you're using PWM, which this drone does not have. It has something called S bus, which stands for serial bus, and it's just a protocol which only uses 1 signal wire rather than 6 or however many you have to fly your drone. So that makes this receiver really, really nice. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take a small flathead screwdriver and your receiver with the casing, and you're going to put it right on where the tab is. Try to get out of the way there. Right on the tab. Press down on it. And then once you get that kind of clicked, you're going to want to pull the casing off just like that. And you want to be careful not to stab the board inside while you're doing that. I'll show you again on this one here. You just kind of take it, you just push down just like that, and it'll click right off. So now this part of the case will pop right off, and I've already done it for you here, but you can see right here, you'll see on your board there will be a piece of plastic right here over the pins, and it is possible to get your board out without taking that off. I just went and snipped it off. I snipped it off with some diagonal cutters, a little piece of plastic, just comes right out of there, and then this will pop off much more easy. Like I said, you don't need to cut that thing to get this out, but it may be a little bit easier for you, especially if you don't plan on reusing the case. If you do plan on reusing the case, I would not cut that and use that again. One very important step you're going to have to make sure of before you put your receiver away and you screw that casing back on is you're going to want to make sure that this is configured to S-Bus. So you can see right now the blue light is on. There's a very small button next to it, if you can see right there. If you press that twice, it turns to red. This is how your receiver will come standard. So this is not correct. You want to press this button twice before turning it on, or before using it, excuse me, and it'll turn blue. And now it's configured for S-Bus, which allows you to use 1 wire instead of 6, which greatly reduces weight. It makes it easier to set up later. If you want to see a video on how to set this up with your controller, click the link in the description below, or contact our customer service for a link, or see our website at Force1RC.com for more info. Now that we've got this configured to S-Bus plugged up, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get this in your drone. So now to fit this back into the drone, like I showed you earlier, you're going to take the housing upside down like this, and you're going to take your receiver, and first of all, you are going to take the antenna here, and when it comes out of the case, it'll be straight like this. You're going to bend it just like that, and you shouldn't be bending anything, I should say twisting, because this does have a little pivot joint on it. If you do find yourself pushing really hard, I would stop and make sure you are doing the correct thing, but you're going to want to just pivot that over here, and that's not a big step, but it makes it a little easier. Okay, so then you're going to flip this thing upside down. You're going to put the little lip of these pins, kind of right down in this groove, kind of right like that, so that because that's the highest point, that's going to sit right down in there. And you can see right now it's well flush, but it sits right down in there. These pins are going to be sitting in there. So now once you've got it there, you're going to take your S-Bus wire here, and you don't have to do this after, but you always want to make sure so you got your case, and it says that the signal wire goes on the bottom, and that was when this side was the top, so we're going to go ahead and do that. This wire will go right on down here. You can see that's plugged up. This is still flush with the case, so now you're going to want to make sure you don't get any of the other wires caught, so get all the other wires out of the way. So you got that in there, and then what you're going to do with this antenna is just kind of wrap it around the side of the case there, and because this is just a thin plastic case, you won't be getting a ton of interference. It would be a little stronger if it were on the outside of the case, but because of size restrictions and because you want to protect your propeller, or your antenna, excuse me, this is where this is going to go. There's also slits in this casing to allow a little bit more signal in and out. So you are just going to do that, and then you're going to spin and make sure your drone is facing the correct direction, so you can see the antennas in the back, so the camera is facing the front, because you don't want to be looking at your antenna the whole time. You're going to hold that receiver and antenna up with your fingers. Again, check that you don't have any of your cords in the way of your holes, so you want to make sure that these ESC and motor wires are out of the way of all your holes, especially camera wires, and these loose wires in here that you won't be using unless you are using a more advanced controller, one of your own, and we recommend using the one that comes with your package, so we won't worry about that in this video. And then you're going to hold those both, and you're just going to gently set it down right on top. And you can see if the antenna does start to stick out there, you can just push it right back under. So you can see the body is mounting very easily. It's all the way down. I can't push it down any further. And you're just going to take your screws while holding the body on at the same time, and you're just going to screw this guy back on. If you find the screw isn't going in, check to make sure that no wires got in the way and that the screw is lined up with your drone. I would put in the diagonals first, and then don't tighten them as tight as possible, or you could damage the board. And like I said, don't tighten them as hard as you can until you get all of them on. And then in a X pattern, tighten one at a time. So you'd go here, 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 and make sure they're completely tight. And then you can see you have your drone with the receiver inside of it now, and I will power it up here. And one thing about powering up is you never want to power up without your antenna on, because of the way it needs to use the antenna to transmit video. You could end up frying your video transmitter. So I mean, just because you've turned it on for a couple seconds with the antenna off doesn't mean, oh, your drone's broken, but we recommend that you put that on before you power up. So you go ahead, plug this up, and you can see now the indicator light for your receiver right there inside of your drone, showing that it is working.